Okay, today I'm going to share some of my favorite thrifting for homeschool supplies tips and tricks. Hey guys, today I am joining Jackie from These Days and a bunch of other homeschool moms, and we are kind of sharing either a homeschool thrift haul or something to do with homeschool and thrifting, which is just a great combination in my mind. I often share different things that I get from thrift stores on here. So today what I thought I would do is share some of my favorite thrifting tips when it comes to homeschool stuff, and I'll also share some of the favorite things that we've purchased when we've been thrifting. I have like a spread. So I went the other day just to see how things were, because I figured if I'm doing this video, you know, I definitely need some like footage of me thrifting. So I had to go for sure. Had to go. And I found two great books, and I'm trying to think of where to start here. Okay, let's actually just start with books, because that is what most of my videos are about anyway. So we love to thrift books when we homeschool, but my two school-aged kids are kind of getting out of the like, you know, picture book stage. But here is one of my first tips. Even if you're out of the picture book stage, still look through there, because there's not just picture books there. Let me just show you. Okay, one of my favorite things that we often find in the picture book section are poetry books. So a few years ago I got this like Poetry for Young People Lewis Carroll book, and I know I saw a winter poems book there one time that I left behind, and years later it still bothers me that I left that book there. So I got this. I have this really vintage A Book of Nonsense, which has Edward Lear's poems in it. What is the year on this thing even? It doesn't even have a year. It has a year. 1980. Yes, and I just love this book. My kids love Edgar Lear's poems, and we have a few different editions, but I really like this one. And then this last time when I was just thrifting, I came across this Random House book of poetry for children, a treasury of 572 poems for today's child. And the poems are selected by Jack Prelutsky, which we like his poems, so a bunch of his are in here. And when I was there, I was like, do we own this book? I couldn't remember, because what has happened is we have gotten this book out from the library many times. So now we own this book with all sorts of different poems in it. And I love adding poetry into our days, so I'm excited about that. So you can find poetry books in the picture book section. Something else that I just found this time was the illustrated tales of Beetle the Bard. And this book is awesome. I love the illustrations. So we bought my daughter the illustrated, not the illustrated, just like the regular tales of Beetle the Bard for Christmas. And I was like, does she really need another version? But this one is so beautiful. This one did cost me $6, so it was a bit pricey. But something like this Random House book, it was only like $2. So that was worth it. Let's just stay on the topic of books. Another thing that I like to get thrifting is board books. So I talked about this in my board book video. You have to be careful, because some board books are obviously terrible and have been eaten by other children, and that's kind of gross. But some of them are in perfect condition. You can tell people got them as a gift and they never read them or let their children touch them. So ours are getting a little mangled now, but these were in perfect shape when we got them. Okay, and then also just general middle grade books. I mean, you can find all sorts of classics. One of my favorites has been Pictures of Hollis Woods. I had actually just read this in the winter, I think it was, and right after I read it, I went thrifting and I found it. I was so excited. This one cost me 99 cents. Plus a lot of thrift stores have, like, if you buy 4, I think, you get the 5th one free, and I generally take advantage of that. So books, especially classics, there's tons of. Any popular series, there's tons of those. So I thrift a lot of our books. Another thing to look for at the thrift stores is different like resource guides. So these are both bird books. I've got prairie birds and a field guide to western birds. Once again, I just love the cover of this. And it even has a ruler on the back. How cool is that? And it's like very dirty kind of looking, but it's got some color pages, and I really like this. So we got identification books. We've got science experiment books before, all sorts of different books. Something my daughter requested a while ago was these two things. One of them was a thesaurus, and because she likes writing, so she wanted to look up different words. I'm like, sure, if you want a thesaurus, I'll buy you one. The other one, this may have been a little embarrassing for me to buy because the person that was like checking me out was a acquaintance, and I didn't want any rumors to start. But I bought a baby name book because she likes to write and she always needs different names for people. So I made it clear that the baby name book wasn't for myself, but that was something she asked for, and it actually took me a while to find one. This is one of my absolute favorite books I found thrifting. It's hefty. It's this huge book of animals. It's got mammals, birds, reptiles, and amphibians, and it's got like huge pictures. Oh my goodness, it's so heavy I can't even hold it. All sorts of different information, and my son is working on our mammals unit this year, so it's perfect. So we will be using the mammal section of this, and I really like having a bunch of book resources available. I don't always like to, pull out like the internet or something. I want them to be able to flip through books and find information. So having big resource guides like this available are great. I've found tons of Usborne books at thrift stores. Yeah, I like that. My next little tip is to look in the section where they like package things. I don't know what this is called, but somewhere like Value Village, it's called here in Canada. I can't remember what it's called in the States, but I think it's like the same corporation with a different name. They have, often along the wall, they have a little baggie with things in there, and you never know what you can find. Recently I found a bunch of Brain Quest cards, which my kids really like. So I grabbed all the applicable ones for where we were at, and you can also find all sorts of different things. I've seen different kinds of like matching games in there, and different like manipulatives, counters for math, all sorts of things. So don't pass up the things on the wall. I made that mistake for years, and now I regret it because all those things I was missing the entire time. Speaking of like matching and stuff, my next tip is to buy some games at the thrift store. We got this Monopoly game a couple years ago, and the things were still in the plastic packaging. It was brand new, had never been used, and I mean, it's like Nintendo Collector's Edition. I don't care. It's not great for playing as an adult if you maybe played it for hours and hours and hours and hours on end as a child. Not that I would know from experience or anything, but it's really good for kids working with math. And so a lot of the classic games you can find at Value Village, and some of them are maybe better than others, but even some of those like easier games like Sorry or whatever, they're really good for kids learning how to take turns and that kind of thing. So there is some benefit. They just might make you want to gouge out your eyes after a little while, or you could be like me and have a 30-minute time limit on how long you will play the game. Okay, and then something that I think may be overlooked when it comes to thrifting for homeschool supplies is thrifting for like craft supplies. So many people buy craft supplies and never actually do the crafts. So they send like, I got this skein of yarn from the thrift store, and we've used some of it, and it was like either all the way full or like 98% full. And it's like my daughter's favorite color. So we have got like lots of yarn, lace for different projects, different like scrapbooking paper. Sometimes I like to use different like old patterns, use that paper for different projects and stuff. So look in like the crafting section, because You never know what you could find or what you could use. Okay, so I have a bit of an obsession with this next item, and that is globes. So I like collecting globes. I've got this one, I've got that one. That's all I own right now, but I'm constantly on the look for cheap globes that aren't like plastic, but have that like, I don't know, like slightly wood kind of cardboard feel. So the two that I have were made in different years, and neither of them are completely accurate. This one does have Russia, but it doesn't have the Democratic Republic of Congo. So it's cool to show kids. I think that one has the USSR. It's cool to show kids how borders change and countries change because of war and people taking over different land and stuff. So I like to have a bunch of globes, ideally kind of at a level where kids can access them, but depending on age of littles, sometimes that hasn't been the case here. But yes, keep an eye out for globes when you go thrifting. I think I paid $2 for one of mine and I think maybe $4 for the other. So to me, that is an awesome deal. And the last item I'm going to mention is something that I have never thrifted before, but I know people who have, and that is musical instruments. If you have a kid that wants to learn a musical instrument, like something maybe like the ukulele or something like that, you can often find things like that at thrift stores, and it's a good way to see, are they actually going to stick with it, or is it something that, you know, they give up within the first day? And that way you haven't spent a ton of money. Yeah, your quality of your instrument probably isn't going to be the greatest, but it gives you enough time maybe to figure out like, okay, should we invest in this or should we not? Obviously you can't find all instruments at the thrift store, but even some things like shakers and stuff, if you kind of want to do a little like family band class or something, that would be a lot of fun. Okay, now I think that is all my thrifting tips and just some of our favorite thrifting things. If you stick around and watch my homeschool hauls, often a good portion of the stuff that I'm hauling comes from the thrift stores, and I always like seeing what there is available, so I like to go often so I can make sure I'm not missing anything. So tell me like your favorite homeschool thing that you have thrifted in the comments below, and thanks for watching, guys.